Let's discuss this issue further now. We're joined by the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry President, Advocate Mtho Xulu. Advocate Xulu, thank you so much for your time this evening. Some have said that it's a failed mission, while others say it's the long game. Where do you stand as the Chamber on the Africa Peace Mission? Was it worth it?
Good evening, Bongiwe. Look, our position as a South African Chamber of Commerce is that we welcome this initiative by African leaders, because we are also feeling the effects of this war. And it doesn't help the continent for us to sit back and not do anything or fail to contribute to finding a solution that will also benefit us in the long run. So our belief is that it was a great initiative. It was a historic initiative. It may seem like a small step now, but I think it was historic in the sense that Africans stood up and tried to make a contribution to geopolitics. And I think it was an effort worthwhile and worth the budget and the time.
And of course, you look at, some of what is being said in the public domain about this particular visit. When one goes through your statement, it says that the 10-point plan was well thought out, but we do see in the public domain, for example, Russia calling it misguided and Kiev seemingly pouring cold water on it. Do you still think that as Africa, as a continent, this 10-point plan was the best we could do?
Yeah, well, look, in the circumstances, we believe that it's a good starting point. It's a balanced plan that seeks to respect both states, but also trying to take into consideration the importance of sovereignty, of humanitarian support, and the likes. So it's a plan that is worth starting. I think every point there can have legs and can be developed further. And it was always going to be a suggestion as a start. So we respect the two countries. They may have their own experiences. But as a mediator, you have a starting point that you believe it as neutral as possible, and you build it out. Every country in this war obviously will have their own unique interpretation. But I think we must steady the course and keep on our 10-point plan, because every point there is very fair for both parties.
And it's not only the 10-point plan, of course, that's under scrutiny. Some are already asking, like the Democratic Alliance, for example, asking, around the costs for this particular trip, saying that the costs are exorbitant and it doesn't look like this is an amount of money that should have been spent on this particular trip.
Well, look, I think we need to have a deeper discussion about how we fund our positioning in the world. We can't try and say South Africa needs to continue to grow its profile globally and not want to fund that. I mean, on an ongoing basis, DERCO and the presidency invest a lot of money in state visits, in maintaining embassies and other foreign missions. So this is part and parcel of being a global player. You can't have diplomacy that is not funded. We fund our intervention, our interactions with the UN, the AU, and all these formations that we are part of. And all other missions that we do on the continent as well are funded by South Africans. So we carry the tab, something as close as home as the Pan-African Parliament, for instance. All those fall under our diplomatic budget. So we must not isolate this mission as if it was breaking the bank. It's part and parcel of being a global player. We can't want to be a serious country around the world and not want to carry our own tab. I mean, then what are we trying to do? So I think we need to be, everyone who's critical of this must understand this mission in the context of positioning South Africa as a global player, and we need to find our position in the world.
Advocate Xulu, I want to go back to something you said a little earlier on, talking about the impact that is also being felt by, the country as well as yourselves and the continent as a whole when it comes to this war that is, going on in Ukraine. We've seen some, business leaders come out to say that for them, they believe that South Africa's non-aligned stance is also costing the country, as we are seen to be part of the problem, particularly given the tensions that are now simmering between South Africa and the United States. You look at the issue of AGOA and all of that, and some calling on South Africa to take a position and be able then to save some of what, the country is really looking into when it comes to investments. I wonder, what are your thoughts then on our position of being non-aligned in terms of our foreign policy, but at the same time, against the backdrop of what some business leaders are saying?
Yeah, look, we are, I believe, a non-aligned position. We still believe so, because ourselves as the South African Chamber of Commerce, we continue to maintain business relationships with organized business in Russia as well as in the Ukraine. We interact with their foreign missions in the country, and we've never taken any side. So we can't get any more non-aligned than what we are now. From a government point of view, obviously, the presidency and DERCO need to continue to work to convince the markets and everyone who's interested to ensure that our non-aligned is not seen to be biased. When you look at obviously comparing our trade partners and so on, the numbers are not the same. They are favoring one part of the conversation over another. But I think we must move away from insisting on a narrative that our non-aligned, it means that we are biased to one side. We are not. Our relationships are sound with both countries as business. We are trying to assist them to continue to have access to the South African market. And we have not taken any position, and we maintain friendships on both sides. And our long-term solution is that let us build a world that has place for everyone and create shared prosperity. And we are non-aligned in that regard. That's our understanding as business.
Interesting thoughts there. Thank you so much for your time, Advocate Xulu. Do appreciate it. That was South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry President, Advocate Mtho Xulu.